Do you ever feel like you're just winging it in your wedding planning business? Trust me, I have been there. And let me tell you, there are a few key mistakes that made my early years harder than they really needed to be. So today I am going to spill the tea so you can learn from my pitfalls and avoid the same mistakes. Hey there, and welcome to the Event Crushed podcast. Each week, we'll be chatting about all things wedding industry, entrepreneurship, and how to crush it in life and business. I'm so glad you're here. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. Hey, it's your host, Becky, and I am excited to start a series on the podcast today geared specifically for wedding planners. So if that's you, you will want to stick around. And if you're not a planner, I think there's still a ton of valuable insight that you can gain here. I imagine you probably work with planners, and it can be beneficial to take a peek behind the curtain to better understand the world of planning. Plus, most of these principles can be applied to pretty much any vendor category. So today, I'm going to share 3 of the biggest mistakes I made in my wedding planning business early on, so that hopefully you can avoid learning the hard way like I did. Honestly, I wish I would have had a podcast like this back in 2012, 2013, 2014, in those early years of my business. Oh man, I think that would have prevented a lot of heartache along the way. There was just not a lot of education back then, and I built my business through a lot of trial and error, as many of us have done. All right, well, let's dive into these 3 mistakes. All right, so the first one is undercharging. And of course, we all have to start somewhere. You cannot come out of the gates charging at the level that you want to, or charging at the same level as experienced planners, of course. However, as you start to gain experience, you should continue to raise your prices so that eventually, when you are experienced, your pricing will match that. And one of the biggest mistakes I made was not raising my rates quickly enough to keep up with my level of experience. So there's a few different problems with this. One potential problem is that you will start to resent your clients. If you're not charging enough, your clients may not be valuing all of the hard work that you're putting in, and you will feel like it's not worthwhile, the work that you're doing, how hard you're working, and what you're getting paid for it. You'll start to feel it's not worthwhile, and you might start to resent your clients, which of course we do not want that. Number 2 is that you may experience burnout. You will feel that you are working super hard, but not being compensated appropriately, kind of like I just said. Plus, if you are undercharging for your services, you will have to execute more events than if you are charging at a higher price point. So to make the amount of money that you need to make in order to make a living, you'll have to do more events than if you were just to raise your rates, and then you could do fewer events at a higher rate. Otherwise, if you are having to, do weddings every single weekend over the summer, that is going to lead to burnout eventually. And number 3 is you won't grow. If you want to, over time, level up in markets, keeping your pricing at a lower price point will prevent you from doing so. So my rule of thumb that I have kind of gone by is that you should be raising your prices every 1 to 2 years, tops. For many years, I raise my prices every single year. Another way to go about it is to raise your pricing after a certain number of events. And I think this is genius. So think about it. You've completed 10 or 15 events over the course of a season, and you've gained a ton of experience and knowledge during that time. You're now a way better event planner than you were last year. Therefore, your prices should go up to match that. You are no longer at the level that you were. You have experienced a whole entire wedding season of gaining knowledge and experience. And because of that, you are able to raise your rates, which you definitely should. Okay, so that was number one, undercharging. Number two is offering a partial planning service. And when I say I learned this the hard way, I really mean it. The worst experience I've ever had in my entire wedding planning career was because I offered partial planning services to a couple back in 2018. And without having super clear boundaries as to what was my responsibility and what was the couple's responsibility, even though I had it all listed out in my proposal and in my contract, there was still a lot of gray area, which I think can be a problem with partial planning. And aside from COVID era weddings that canceled, this was the only time in my career that I have ever been asked for a partial refund from a client. And as you can imagine, it was completely devastating. It was truly the lowest point of my career. And after that wedding, I swore to never offer partial planning again. And I stand by that decision. On occasion, I will offer a custom planning package between my main two offerings, so wedding management and full service planning. But I will make it extremely clear from the get-go exactly what is included in that offering and what is not included. The thing about partial planning is that it leaves so much room for ambiguity. And also, you are rarely compensated appropriately for this type of service. In my experience, it's a way for couples to get more or less a full planning service without a full planning price tag. Yikes. Side note, I won't go into the whole story right now, but back to that story I mentioned a minute ago about that 2018 wedding. I actually ended up attending the same church as the mother of the bride, who was the one who was unhappy in 2018. I saw her in passing a few times at church and was just really nervous because I didn't know if she recognized me. And then when my daughter got baptized at our church in 2023, she was actually helping out with the baptisms and was like standing with my daughter in line and talking with her and everything. And again, I had no idea if she recognized me, but after that day, I decided to text this mother of the bride and just let her know that it was my daughter that she had been with during the baptism. And long story short, we started talking via text. She was super receptive and sent me the nicest text message. I mean, it honestly blew my mind because the last time that I had spoke with her over email was not super cordial. And so having this experience with her after all that time had passed, and then seeing her at church, and then her giving me a giant hug and apologizing and all these things, it blew my mind, honestly. And so I know this doesn't have anything to do with the topic at hand, but that's just something that I never thought there would be redemption for that situation in my life. Like I said, it was truly the lowest point of my career. And to be able to reconnect with this person again and to kind of redeem our relationship is just incredible. And so time really does heal all, like they say. All right. And then number 3, the third thing is failing to set boundaries. I know it may not be true for every wedding planner, but I know that many of us are people pleasers. Raise your hand if you're a people pleaser. This means that we want to make everyone happy, including our clients, and sometimes that leads to not setting clear boundaries or expectations up front. So this can include allowing clients to text you at all hours of the day, taking calls outside of business hours, allowing clients to add an extra planning meeting here or there with no additional cost, and just generally doing work above and beyond the scope that you have been paid for. To prevent this from happening, it is so important to make sure that you are outlining your communication expectations from the very beginning and making sure it's extremely clear what tasks you will be responsible and which tasks your client is responsible for. We personally do this through our online planning suite, which outlines our business hours, our communication expectations, meeting guidelines, and so much more. So from the time of booking, they have access to that and it walks them through everything. Of course, we also have these items outlined in our contract and in our welcome email. Sometimes they need to hear it a few times. You might think, oh, I told them about my office hours, but honestly, it's important to reiterate those things. It shouldn't just be a one-time thing. They might need reminders, and that's okay. And if you can just kind of put it in there a few times in the very beginning, that will help it stick more. And truly, the more clarity on the front end, the less of a chance that the couple is going to overstep these boundaries. And if they do, you will have your contract and any other written agreements to reference to the couple, so they will hopefully quickly realize that they have overstepped, and then it won't happen again. All right, so those are my 3 mistakes to avoid as wedding planners. If you are a newer planner and you are dealing with any of these things, just know you're not alone. I went through it all as well, and hopefully you will be able to take something from this and make some changes if needed. And before we wrap up today's episode, I wanted to take a quick moment to share about a special opportunity. If you are a newer wedding planner within your first few years of business and you are looking for guidance, support, insider knowledge to help avoid these common mistakes like I mentioned today, my one-on-one wedding planner mentorship might be exactly what you are looking for. Through this mentorship, I offer one-on-one coaching, hands-on training, and personalized strategies to help you elevate your business and confidence as a wedding planner. Whether you're struggling with logistics, systems, marketing, networking, or any other pain point in your planning business, I just love coming alongside planners to help troubleshoot and make their businesses the best that it can be. So if you're ready to level up your business and take the next step in your wedding planning career, you can click the link in the show notes to learn a bit more about the mentorship and to apply. I cannot wait to help you crush your goals. And with that said, we are going to leave it there. So thank you for tuning in today. I know it was a short episode, and this will actually be the last Friday to have an episode come out. So starting next week, we're going to have episodes coming out on Wednesdays, which I'm really excited about. So there will just be a handful of days in between today and the next episode. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Event Crushed podcast. I hope you found value in this episode, and if you did, please consider sharing it with a wedding industry friend. We also hope you'll consider leaving a rating or review for the show to help other listeners find it. This podcast is edited and produced by Ace Sound Design. If you're looking to elevate your audio experience, their info can be found in the show description. As always, thank you for listening, and please connect with us on Instagram if you haven't already. Now get out there and crush it.